Well, A Good Person is about a tragedy that occurs and how it changes the lives of these two families. And the families are trying to grieve on their own, but a series of circumstances brings two of the key members together, and they end up sort of saving each other from themselves. So Florence Pugh plays Allison. She's a young woman. She's so happy. She's engaged to the love of her life. She has her whole future ahead of her, and she's involved in a car accident in which her future sister-in-law and her sister-in-law's husband are both killed. We then cut to a year later, and her relationship has fallen apart. She's in a severe depression. She's addicted to OxyContin that has been prescribed to her for her injuries from the accident, but now she's on it just to numb herself. And we also see where Morgan Freeman's character Daniel has ended up. He's been sober 10 years, but really suffering with his sobriety and trying to raise his granddaughter because he's lost his daughter. Florence's character sort of hits rock bottom and decides she needs to seek help, and she has the courage to go and attend her first NAAA meeting. And of all the meetings she picks in the world, she picks the one where her would-be father-in-law is attending as well. And so in that moment, she does what a lot of people would do and run out of there and say, hey, I'll find another meeting. But he stops her and says, I know how hard it is to get here, and you got here. Please don't run away because of me. And in that moment, it really is the beginning of this very unlikely friendship between two people who are suffering and in pain and in grief. But they both could really use a friend, and they both could really use some help. And that sets in motion this very unlikely friendship between two people who really need some help. This film is about standing up after a huge low moment in your life. So there'll be audience members who'll be able to relate directly to the addiction or the or death, but you can also just insert any dark time of your life, whether it be the pandemic or a divorce or a breakup or anything that just insert there. This film is about someone who's standing back up after a really low point. I think that's really one of the main things this film is about. It's about good people who have fallen down and are doing their very best to stand back up. And oftentimes that means leaning on someone to help you get back up. And the way, the crazy way that life can unfold, oftentimes, sometimes, that person is the last person in the world you'd expect to be leaning on. One of my favorite scenes with Morgan, and there's so many, but it's when we finally see him share in AA, and you get the feeling that he hasn't quite shared this particular story. And when he first starts talking, he's talking about how some things are beyond forgiveness. I think that the audience and Allison will both assume he's going to reference her, even vaguely maybe, but maybe directly. We don't know what's about to happen. She certainly, her eyes widen up like, oh my God, is he about to talk about me? But then he turns it around and talks about what's probably the lowest moment of his life. And I think it really shows just how extraordinary an actor Morgan Freeman is, that monologue. I think Morgan Freeman can break your heart like nobody else can. There's some other older legends that we all love, and they're extraordinary actors, and your mind is blown watching them, but not all of them can break your heart like Morgan Freeman can. When you see the pain in his eyes playing this character, he just brought so much of his own experience. I think Morgan really related to the story of the film in his own way. He told me that he saw himself on every page of the script, and I think it really touched him. Like everyone, especially people of a certain age, he's experienced great loss in his life, and I think he could really tap into that in a way that was incredibly powerful. Well, I wrote the film for Florence. Like so many people, I'm just blown away by her talent. And I wanted to write something for her. I wrote this mostly over the pandemic, and I wanted to, and I'd experienced a lot of grief in my life, having lost in the last 4 years my father, my sister, my best friend to COVID, another best friend to suicide. Uh, I've had a lot of heartbreak and grief in my life, so I wanted to write about standing back up from that, not just myself, but the people I see who are are at the forefront of that, having to stand back up. My best friend's widow, for example, watching her and thinking, "Gosh, how is she ever going to stand back up from something so tragic?" And and so that was kind of the jumping off point. Florence was incredible. She loved the script, and she really wanted to participate in developing the character and the script. She gave me wonderful notes, and I evolved it with her ideas, and of course her big monologue. We worked on together and really finessed it together. The one where she finally shares in AA. All over the place, Florence contributed, and also in casting, she was so helpful in helping me cast the other actors who weren't, the marquee names, because I really wanted, it was crucial that she have a really good chemistry with Chinaza and Celeste, and we read so many wonderful actors. But when I finally got down to the end, I wanted Florence to read with them, and we were all in different places on Earth, so it all took place over Zoom, which of course isn't ideal, but Florence read with them, and she, as not just the star of the movie, but as a producer on the film, was really helpful to be like, we both agree, it's Chinaza, it's Celeste, like we they're incredible. So she was so crucial to developing it and being my producing partner.